Hello, classmates. I am Paola Andrea Torres Rodriguez, student of Cultural Management of Ian University.
Hello, my name is Hugo Beltran, currently a semester course of Student and Cultural Management.
Hello, my name is Wilber Franco. I am a student of Cultural Management in the EAN University. Ian what to learn a lot of the subject. Thank you, teacher.
The Swissionist Rudolf Kahn is considered as the founder of geopolitics. This geographic exposed the basic pillars of the discipline and 1,000 moves in his book, Introduction to Swiss Geography. However, the concept was not meditated at any time, but it was not until 1916 with his most important book, The State as Way of Life. So, the line and exposed the term geographic for the first time. In parallel, and geographer Frederick Draxler also tourism about the social science, stating that the state is like a living organism, like a human society which must grow, exposed or of Notre Dame. This confronts on frontiers the trend of dynamic change and influence on everything that they encompass inside.
Well,
State policies that gave entrance to a century full of events that changed the course of contemporary history. These events occurred due to the need of the powers to expand their territory and the poor foreign policies that were carried out.
The 19th century marked the final stage from the absolute monarchies that has dominated Europe from the Middle Age to the liberal nation states of our date is of our century in which industry imposed instead of manual forms of production, year of scientific, philosophical, and rights and liberties progress, but also of continuous conflict in Europe between social class, nations and states. These are some of the important historical events that took place in this momentous century for humanity.
The 18th century had culminated with the event and historiographically marks the transition between the modern and contemporary age, the French Revolutions, the figure of Napoleon Bonaparte emerged from the convulsion revolution in France. This considered military men, combatant military genius, and political ability during his career. He climbed the hierarchy of the revolutionary regime and he proclaimed himself emperor of the French. His armies subdued half of the Europe and propagated revolutionary ideas had that the continent. Finally, Napoleon was defeated in Waterloo in 1815, but the Olden Regiment would already live in of the continuous crisis and budget what gradually dispersed.
Colonization of Africa. Faced with the increase in productivity, the industry began to require an increasing amount of raw materials. Europe was dry of natural resources after centuries of exploitation, and the great powers put their eyes on Africa. Starting from the old trading post established along the African coast, the European began a rampant race in the interior of the continent. Thousands of kilometers were distributed as pieces of a cake, and natural resources began to be extracted and sent to Europe. The African population had little to say in that process. The languages and region of the colonizers and impoverished economy have remained as the most visible heritage in Africa after the colonization of the last century. Unification of Italy and Germany. The map of Central Europe at the beginning of the 19th century was very different from the current one. A myriad of small states stretched across the territory that we now call Italy and Germany. Based on the romantic ideals of nationalism and the strength of their armies, charismatic leaders such as Otto von Bismarck or Giuseppe Garibaldi undertook the unification of both territories. The two processes, with their differences, led to wars and significant tensions through the territory. Finally, Italy and Germany were consolidated as two of the great powers called to have a leading role in the 20th century in Europe.
Paris Commune. Precisely as the final phase of the German unification, Bismarck saw a military victory against the great rival of his project France. Prussia led an alliance of all German states against the France of Napoleon, the central of Napoleon Bonaparte. The French defeated and the rise of the government of Paris, the capital, in the heart of the population, the social inequalities generated by industrialization had been the German of revolutionary ideologies that saw the manipulation of the workers and the establishment of a society with a good social class.
Disaster of the age. The Napoleonic invasion of Spain had led to the independence of much of Hispanoamerica. Numerous states were created to gather the convenient from Mexico to Argentina, but island of Cuba and the archipelago of Philippines remained the last imperial vestige of Spain, but colonized would definitely achieve their independence in the 1898 with the support of the United States. The great empires that had dominated the world during the modern age came definitely to an end. What Spanish historiography was known as the disaster of 98.
Scientific advances of the end of the 19th century and the principles of the 20th. The advances and inventions of this period were very useful for humanity. Some, like the typewriter, which until a few years ago was used as a main writing tool in offices, do not mention the importance of advances in telecommunication as the evolution of the telegraph and the inventions of the telephone that allowed to shorten distances and times in terms of the desires and needs to communicate.
Of all the greatest scientific advances of this period go the discovery of S raised by the German physicists Wilhelm Röntgen advance that allowed progress in various areas such as medicine, where rays are used to make radiography essential in the diagnosis of fracture. In the conclusion is pure hope was of great importance in scientific advances, since they are used to this day of our device for the technologies that we not is. The two most emblematic and advances of the 19th century were the internal combustion engine and the generation of electricity. The 20th century is marked by two situations: progression and war are their maximum expression. The need to control the power of science led to major catastrophes that were paid with human life.
Facts and events 20th century. Mexican Revolution, November 21, 1810. This background is the stage of Porfiriato with Diaz affirmed that the world reiterated after finishing his term, the political situation began to escalate. Madero began a series of tours in the country with which he sought the formation of the new party. Diaz launched a new candidacy and Madero was arrested, but he managed to escape from prison. He escaped the armed revolution against the Diaz government in what I know as the San Luis Plan. Sinking of the Titanic, 15 of April 1912. The night of the 14th to 15th of April of 1920, the Titanic collisioned with an iceberg, causing a break in the hull through which the water wall began to enter. The British Ocean liner was considered the largest and most luxurious ship built until the date of the accident. The evacuation work was extremely complex due to various causes of the sinking of the Titanic harmed the life of about 1,500 people.
First World War, July 28, 1914 to November 11, 1918. The First World War, or Great War, is the first of the Great War conflicts worldwide. The fighting groups were the Triple Entity United Kingdom, France, and the Russian Empire, and the Triple Alliance, Germany and Austro-Hungary. The war ended with the request for an armistice by Germany, and shortly after the Treaty of Versailles was signed. Germany had to accept all the moral and material responsibilities of the war, taking charge of great economic compensations. Uh, Bolshevik Revolution of Russia, November 7, 1917. The Romanov dynasty ruled Russia when it entered the Great War. Tsar Nicholas II led the troops, leaving the government in the hands of Tsarina Alexandra. The social and political climate began to convulse, and the revolution found its perfect breeding ground. The Bolsheviks defended a government managed by the lower classes of citizenship, based on the political and social ideas of the ideologies Karl Marx. Once the Tsar had abdicated, pressured by the revolution, the Roman family was martyred at the hands of the Bolsheviks.
The Great Depression, October 20, 1929, is go the great economic crisis that devastated the world, starting with the South Car blast Tuesday. In precedent, the Second World War in the duration was variable depending on the country or analysis. The crash of the stock market of 29 devastated the economic and society of lots of countries. International trade dramatically, and EU underemployment rates reached levels never seen before. Korean War U-25 1950 to July 27, 1950 to the Korean War Wars or war conflict developed by South Korea, supported by the United States and the United Nations Organization and North Korean, but by the People Republic of China and the Soviet Union. The reason for the conflict was the territorial division carried out by the group of allies after the Second War, where the war indeed inflicted 2000 the signing of an amnesty that restored the borders of the Koreans, creating and some of the demilitarization.
Election of the Nelson Mandela as President of South Africa, 10 of May of 1994. Nelson Mandela was a South African lawyer, activist, political who became the first black South Africa president. Before awaiting the position, Mandela had spent 27 years of prison after being prosecuted in Rwanda process for his activism against the apartheid Korean War. 25 of June of 1950 of 27 of July 1953. The Korean War is a war conflict developed by South Korea, supported by the United States and the United Nations Organization, and North Korea, backed by the People's Republic of and the Soviet Union, the People's Republic of China and Soviet Union. The reason for conflict was the territorial division carried out by the group of aliens after the Second World War. The war ended in 1953 after the signing of the armistice that resolved the battles of the two Koreas, creating a zone of the delimitation.
Cuban Revolution, January 1st, 1959. The Cuban Revolution was the result of the Cuban revolutionary movement promoted by the country's political left in the 1950s. The consequence was the fall of the dictatorial regime of Fulgencio Batista and the rise of power of Fidel Castro as leader of the guerrilla army. It is a historical milestone in America for representing the first of several leftist revolutionists to achieve success. Fall of the Berlin Wall, November 9, 1989. The Berlin Wall, which constituted the inter-German border, divided the country into two blocks, capitalist and communist. It stood for 19 years and finally fell on the night of November 9, 1989. The Communist bloc demanded freedom of movement. A new legislation to travel generated a great confusion among the citizens who crowded to the doors of the wall with the intention of crossing to the west. That night, Berliners themselves began the destruction of the wall.
Cold War, August 1990 of February 28, 1990, and Gulf, or where is now, is the invasion carried out by the coalition, authorized and promoted by the United Nations led and decided that by the United States enhanced Iraq. Saddam Hussein had invaded and annexed the state of Kuwait in 1990, by which the UN sanctioned the Republic of Iraq, dictating the resolution no 6 who resisted, by which Iraq would be attacked by a coalition in the case of the North, without doubting its truth from Kuwait in a fixed maximum term.